Good evening. You're listening live to the Extreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob. I'm alongside RDV tonight here in the Pine Hills Palace just west of Orlando, Florida. It was a dark and stormy night. It was a night where we watched a movie called Infinite starring Mark Wahlberg, a.k.a. Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch, having some good vibrations in his phone. RDV, I gotta sit there and say, I watched this film, and like the more recent, allegedly sci-fi thriller, called Stowaway, that was extremely horrible and my worst movie of the year, it was quickly outdone by this movie because I think this movie completely sucks and is trash from start to finish, minus a really good premise that they didn't even bother with in a couple scenes that we'll talk about too. So,
sir,
initially not a fan of this film at all, and I'm a Marky Mark fan.
Sir, do you work for the New York Times? Because that's kind of what they said too.
I can't talk about where I've gotten my training because they may be listening. But that being said, not a fan of this film for several reasons. But I feel like you're a fan of it. So, what are your initial takes?
Well, it's different. I mean, it's we've been getting Mark Wahlberg in the Transformers, Daddy's Home, and all that stuff. He's taking it, and he's finally like leaving the comedy and going back to like an action role. Not that he wasn't doing an action role in Transformers, but this is more like, you know, where he's the main star and he's not being outdone by giant robots. You know, it was different because in fact it deals with time, and this kind of remind me kind of like, you know, the Assassin's Creed stuff, you know, where the people they connect to their ancestors and all stuff like that. Stuff that this guy, he's out of like 200 people, I think it is. I can't remember what it was, how the number was, but they are able to remember their past lives, and it's down to him and another guy who were like the first two people, you know, of their kind. Mm-hmm. And they're like the most powerful. And like one guy, he's just sick of, you know, the bad guy is sick of just basically being, you know, alive. He wants to die, you know, and he has his device, and he basically like when he kills people, he like downloads their conscious or their soul into like these hard drives, which was kind of weird, like a hard drive for a soul. I'm like, that's kind of like dumb. I can imagine if you had it like in a vial, you know, like a glowing vial.
Our conversation's already going on.
Yeah, I know.
It's so ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, but
the idea of what you're talking about, that allegedly people call this a sci-fi film, it's not, because it doesn't really deal with a particular science issue. Well, it's not science fiction at all. It's made up nonsense to make it sound like sci-fi because they use some sort of blaster thingy that deals with time or whatever. It doesn't deal with anything social with human beings.
It's basically reincarnation, you know, and yeah.
Well, the interesting thing about this idea was that when I saw this, and I don't really know too much about it, it's currently showing on Paramount Plus. It was delayed because of COVID for some time, so it had been shot a while ago. I don't even know if it's actually in theaters. I didn't check that out, but the idea is that, you know, and what you said is neat. We know what the premise is right off the bat, that there's roughly around 200 people or so that can remember their past lives. And out of that group of people, there's a group of people that want to do it for good and a group that want to do it. They don't even say for evil. They say they're just nihilistic and they kind of want to die, like to your point. So therefore we have the good and the bad, the black and the white, the yin and yang, the whatever to whatever, who cares? It's an age-old thing, but that's fine. And so,
well, yeah. I want to say that the bad guy, the reason that he wants to die, because he said when he has all his memories functions when he's in a baby in the womb, he has to sit there and wait forever just before he can refunction and all that stuff. He'll grow up, you know, he'll move around. So it's like torture for him, and he hates it.
I get it, but let's go back to the very beginning and some stuff that may be attractive or not. And here's the thing that this movie did do, I think, good, and that it went for something. I applaud the effort. You know, it tried to do something early on. It showed this Ferrari in Mexico City, I think it is, at night. Of course, it's at night because, you know,
that was 1985.
Correct. Looks like a Testarossa, which, you know, really popular back then. they're driving around and this guy's injured. He does something that you don't see in films that much anymore, and I really popped hard for it. I felt this is a really romantic thing. It's you're injured and you're reaching the old cigarette lighter to cauterize the wound there on that.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, this is cool. And he's talking to other people, so we don't know what's going on. He says, if I don't make it, look inside. And he's being chased. And of course, they make Mexico City look like a really beautiful place instead of the crap hole that it is. That being said,
anybody listening in Mexico, we're sorry.
Well, here's the thing. No, well, yeah, Mexican food's my favorite. Okay, I love the culture, but the city's a dump. Let's be honest. And there would never be that much room where he could do this chase. That being said, it's a chase. What was interesting here was not, and this is where I'm having problems with the film, and we'll differentiate here. I thought the action sucked, the way it was filmed and all that. That being said, I liked what they were trying to do. Like I say, with the Ferrari 1985, we immediately don't know who this guy is, but we know he's being chased. There's a real sense of panic on his face. He's talking to other people. We don't know what's going on. We start off right in the middle of some action, which can be done well and hook you in, like as an opening gambit. And I could argue that, well, we don't know the character, so we wouldn't like him. But the thing is they throw you for a loop because literally he runs his car off of this giant empty, not even bridge, it's where the road ends, and he has this stupid thing where somehow he's able to get out of his car and hook onto something or whatever, and it was just completely horrible looking. The CGI was crap. From that point on, I went, oh my god, I hope it's not one of these kind of films, right? And then what they did that made me go, okay, they didn't show Marky Mark because it's not him. Well, we see Marky Mark in like modern times, and we see that he's getting ready to go, and I thought this was a great scene, but it was shitty writing. It goes in for a job interview, okay, and it looks like he's trying to be like a manager. I don't know if it's a restaurant, I think.
Yeah.
And so he's having the big group interview, and he's like, tell me why I should hire you, and this and that. Tell me about your past behavior or whatever. And immediately the guy that's being the dickhead interviewee, who obviously has zero HR skills at all, is talking about his past and all that. And it's a way of us, trying to see, okay, Marky Mark's dealing with some tough stuff. How is he able to handle it? He composed himself well. We like him. Therefore, we automatically want to buy into his character. But the dickhead interviewer, there's no way he could ask any of those kinds of questions at all, ever. So I just thought that scene sucked. We move forward to another scene, and this was, to me, the best scene in the movie as far as character stuff, and I want to get your take on it. This is where, if they had focused on stuff like this, it could have made this very interesting to me. There's some voiceover work, which I'm a mark for, where he's making the sword and he's forging. I'm like, what the hell is he doing forging the sword for? I'm thinking it's going to be like a big battle axe or something, right? But no, it's just it's katana and all that. He's running out of meds, so he's making it for this gangster wannabe thug who's got his stuff, and we know that exchange is going to go south or whatever. But what's interesting is as he's making it, the guy doesn't realize what of a good sword he has in there, but he just the voiceover's like, well, did you ever just do something and realize you never knew how to do it? You could just do it. And it was interesting how they could explore that personal side of something with it. And I thought, okay, this is going to be the character from before who doesn't remember it yet. There'll be some sort of agent that'll make him kind of get into it. Things go bad. He gets arrested, but then somebody comes, to your point here, and this is where I'll stop, comes to interview him, and then he gets breaking out of something and really bad CGI by an impossibly hot girl to meets an impossibly hotter girl that does stuff to him, and then it just really goes off the rails and becomes a really, really horrible CGI.
Before we get to the thing, the drug deal or everything, it goes bad because the guy, betrays him, and he's gonna he wants to. The guy's high. He's like, "Oh, that's a cool sword." And he tells the lady to chop her.
Hansa, yo, that was funny.
yeah, he's gonna chop her arm off. He's like, because she's giving Marky Mark,
She's turned out by a guy that knows a little bit of something.
Yeah, and and he says, "No, you're not gonna do this." And then he ends up stabbing the guy, and and. Yeah, and he's leaving, and you see him. This is where you start seeing is he
he has visions.
Yeah, and he sees where he's out on a cliff, and he's like, at the point he's like, he lets himself fall because at this point you can tell he's suicidal. He doesn't have his medicine. He can't afford it. He doesn't have a job. No one will hire him because he's schizophrenia. He's been his whole entire life, his childhood. and then he falls onto a car. You know, I'm thinking like, man, you might be in the hospital for a little bit. You know, depending on how hard he fell, it looked like he crushed the top of the roof of the car. But yeah.
What did you think of the whole like quote unquote sci-fi setup? Which is just, it's garbage to me. It's not really sci-fi, but that's what passes for sci-fi these days. But as far as what they were trying to set up here in this first going in the second act, did you like it? Did you hate it?
It's typical like as far as like your 2000 stuff, your Equilibrium and stuff, you know, kind of like weird sci-fi. It's like I said, this is a different concept because I was thinking like, is this mean like a time travel, or is the Matrix, you know, where we don't, you know, follow the white rabbits and you find out that he's been living in a simulation or something? Then yeah, but no, it's just like I said, this is a movie. You don't want to overanalyze it, and I've learned that with a lot of movies since 2000. Actually, since 2012, I've noticed that a lot of the movies have gone even further downhill. Yes. So if you're looking to go for a perfect movie from Hollywood, you are already in the wrong. You know, you're not going to find a perfect movie. You're more lucky to find a better movie or better written script from something that's foreign. That's just the way it is. You know, Hollywood has become so full of themselves, you know, that they push out half-assed scripts and try to pass it off as being brilliant.
This we know. That's you're absolutely right.
And this movie is one of them. This movie, I don't think it sucks, but I mean, it's average. What comes out today, it's the science. Like I said, the sci-fi part of it is pretty much, I guess, him, you know, but I guess the weapons they use, that'd be the science fiction part, you know. But it's more like a thriller, with a little bit of, you know, it's because it focuses on reincarnation. I mean, can you imagine if you remembered everything, the things that you know in your life, you kept remembering things, and you wanted to do things? That would try to drive you crazy, you know? I mean, some people might cash in and be like, wow, man, I want to make a sword. Yeah, like he's trying to do. But I mean, like, if you can't control what you're seeing, you know, I can see why he's messed up, you know, all that stuff. They really, you know, that's why they really want you to sympathize with him. But as it got through the movie, like, the bad guy, you know, in the jail thing, him chasing him in the truck, that was far-fetched. But then again, it just felt like a Fast and Furious movie. That's what it felt like.
Yeah, and the thing is you can't be all things to all people. So are you an action movie? Are you a thriller? Are you trying to be hardcore sci-fi where this idea of past lives and how do you deal with, like you say, the volume of information that you've experienced over your life affects you as a human? I think they had potential for something there. I've not read the book that it's based off of.
Yeah.
But the idea that, you know, you've got two groups fighting each other and that's it. And like I say, possibly beautiful people helping each other out with really bad CGI stuff. I really felt like the actors in this film were really let down by the crappy writing. It's, you know, I always hate it when you see, like, there's the fight scene, right? Or I call it the fight chamber. It's where the really hot chicks in there, one of many of them, that's talking about these people and how they've fought for years and they're practicing stuff or whatever like that. Just basically just being a cheer, like, yeah, try harder, do this, do that, expect everything. I mean, it's insultingly bad as far as what they say with it. And I'm looking at this going, I don't know what movie you're trying to be, but you're really not trying to be one thing that I could latch onto. And I thought that Mark did okay with the material that he had, I guess. And even the bad guy was decent looking, you know, he's a little bit of a different face or whatever. But this whole idea of the egg and getting them intimate and the way the movie ends was just absurd.
I did like the action scene towards the end there.
Did you?
In the helicopter or whatever, in the plane. Okay. But then again, that whole plane thing reminded me of what was that movie called? Dark Fate, Terminator, Dark Fate.
I didn't think of it like that.
Yeah, because remember in the plane, they're in a plane like that, and it's crashing. You're fighting, you know, and like, you know, they shot down, and like it just felt like a James Bond thing to me, you know, like we've seen this before. You know, we're in a plane. The guy's like, keep flying, we're fine, because the whole thing is they want to launch this device called the egg, and it's just going to wipe out everything on the planet, every living thing, so they can't be reincarnated. My thing is, why didn't that guy just develop a technology if he didn't want to commit suicide? Why didn't he just put himself in a hard drive?
Oh, I don't disagree with you at all, and that's the whole point of this is that you have a situation where, you know, we want to root for Marky Mark's character. his situation where we see his initial character die and they get reborn. We're like, okay, now we get what the idea is, right? And so he's put in this situation, and it's like, really, that's it? You know, why do I really care about the bad guy and him killing off the world? It's yeah, these gigantic things like that, like you say, and I think James Bond is a perfect example of it, especially in the past 5, 6, 7, 8 films, where it's this gigantic, death of humanity sort of stuff. It's tiring. It doesn't make you care about it. If we knew about the bad guy and why he was like that or something, and saw how he had turned on him even more or whatever, okay, they knew each other for a really long time. They fought side by side until he finally said, no, life is different for me now. You have no understanding on how I feel. It's like, really, dude? You had a decent presence, when we first met you, but then you come across as like a little whiny bitch. It just doesn't make me hate the bad guy or the big plot to basically kill the world, just because it's like, go off yourself, you gothy looking loser. I mean, it's like, I don't know, it was very disappointing, because like I say, even if it was an average film, it could have been a lot better, and I think that the idea was interesting and it made me want to watch it more, but it was so horrible as far as an experience to watch. I went, holy crap, this is painful. Stowaway is a movie I did not like. We have not talked about that yet, but I'll simply say it's, besides being stupid, it's just boring from start to finish, but it looks great. Big budget. This one feels like it's kind of big budget because they're supposedly in a lot of different places around the world, and that's cool. But then, like I say, some of the CGI looks like it's Sharknado level, and it really kind of makes you as a watcher go, really? Is this just an afterthought?
Yeah, this was actually directed by
Antione Fuqua, good director.
He did Gangsters. He did videos for Tony Braxton, Stevie Wonder, Prince, Michelle Pfeiffer. He directed her in Gangsters Paradise video by Coolio. He what else did he did? King Arthur. Then 2004, Tears of the Sun. The Equalizer. Olympus Has Fallen. It's just like Brooklyn's finest.
I like him as a director.
Yeah, like I said, he's done a lot of stuff. Southpaw, Consent to Kill, like everything. Magnificent Seven was his last one he did before this, and he's in talks. This guy's in talks to direct a new Scarface film, which I cringe at because no one can get past, nobody can do it. It's already been done. But I mean, it's a good director, it was written by some guy named Todd Stein, which I've never heard his name before. It isn't, and I'm looking at it in the Wikipedia. It doesn't even have a link to us or anything.
Well, that's a story. The screenplay, and sure, he's written a few things, but nothing that makes you go, oh, that rocks, or that's cool.
But it's based on the book called The Reincarnations Papers by D. Eric McCrans, and which I don't know. Maybe the book is much better. It's because that's the thing about Hollywood. They completely ignore source material. They've done this before. They've done it with Netflix. Look at the that movie that show that came out. Jupiter's Legacy was nothing like the comic books. They just totally went a different direction, and it sucked, and it got canceled because of it. But yeah, this movie was originally supposed to come out last year, and they said basically that the biggest problem, and I've seen this too. Yes, this is basically like The Matrix. It's the way it's a guy who wakes up and realizes there's a whole new world. He's a whole different person, and only he can stop the save the world. So if you're into that stuff, it's cool. I mean, this is the movie. If you're gonna buy it on DVD, don't buy it at full price. Wait for $5. The bargain bin at Walmart, or if you can, see it on TV when it hits cable. But then again, do movies even go on TV anymore, or they stay on streaming now? I mean, I know FX play stuff, but
it's on Paramount Plus, you're obviously paying for a subscription, so it's being it was put on there. Okay, I get it, and we have this consolidation going on. But if this is the kind of crap they're going to make, and for pay services, I just don't see where people are going to say it. Now, you and I have covered some good TV series that are new. We've been covering some older ones as well too.
Yeah.
We've covered Kolchak. We've covered from the 70s. We're currently covering Twin Peaks. We've covered Ragnarok, a more recent one that was really good, but that wasn't U.S. sourced. So it's unfortunate this movie sucks so bad because it's just I'd be offended if I was paying for this kind of content and this would be the
It's
best they would
available
get.
on Amazon Prime now with premium with the Prime subscription. That's where it's available right now. The cast though was actually pretty good on here for being some of the no names. Or I mean, I consider no because I don't really watch a lot of movies.
Yeah, it's a good cast. It really is. And look, the directing of it, I still think it looks like it's a big budget kind of film. I don't think it looks like a crappy kind of whatever. It's just
No.
the story and the lines in here are so bad. You know, what's the guy's name? Or the guy in here, his name's Treadway. And I'm going, okay, Jason Bourne, hello.
Yeah.
Treadstone. I mean, it's like, I just, it's hard to, this would have been, like you said, that don't think about it. If it came out 20 years ago, we might be like, oh, it's kind of cool because it would have been a somewhat newer, but based off of everything that we've seen.
That's what it is. It's a guy who played Karamoto in Doctor Strange. He's the bad guy from that movie.
Oh,
that's why the main bad guy is the main bad guy in Doctor Strange movie in the MCU. And I've seen him in other things, you know. And I was just like, I know this person. He was in The Martian too. And that was that Mark Wahlberg, wasn't that? Or was that Ben Affleck? That was Ben Affleck. No, it wasn't Ben Affleck. It was Matt Damon. Duh.
Matt Damon was in The Martian. NASA's PR movie.
And that's the thing with Mark Wahlberg, Matt Damon, and Ben Affleck. They're the same acting caliber. So I always get confused sometimes.
Well, we'll kind of close on this. I think the big thing with Mark Wahlberg is allegedly he's ashamed of his previous life, and now he's a bad boy and did rap, and now he's a Christian guy, a big family man, and he's a fitness fanatic, works out. So we'd like to have nice stars in action films, and I like a lot of the movies he's done. I thought Shooter was a lot of fun, and he does some comedies, and I think some of those are pretty good too. But then there's movies that come out like this, and I go, well, I guess this is paying for your new gym that you had installed in your garage or something.
And
because
that's the thing.
It's awful.
I would love to see even more serious movies. Like Contraband was a serious movie.
Yeah.
And like, you know, he's been doing movies that have like a little bit of comedy, and I'm like, I don't need the comedy, bro. If you got the solid action, you got a solid good story, you know, I don't need the comedy. Because then it starts to feel like a buddy cop movie or any of those things, or Fast and Furious, which is basically they've all become.
Right.
You know? I don't need that. Just give me the straight up action, give me the plot, the suspense. People are trying to kill you. That's movies I like. I like the Fugitive movies pretty much. You know,
and the other thing too is his undisputed masterpiece to me. Only half joking here. We go back to 1996's Fear, or plays a psychotic boyfriend.
Yes,
that fits him to a T. It's we know that he's probably overdid it in there, underdid it, but he was right for the role, and he fits here. I just feel like he's talking like this through his lines. I'm like, well, why? It's because you're on meds. Shouldn't you be a little crazier if you're not on them? I mean, it was tough to watch. He was so bland. It was more exciting watching the bad guy and all that other stuff because you're like, he doesn't feel like he's got a heart.
I want him to reprise and like do a Fear sequel. I don't care. He's a lot. If Michael Myers can come back like 16 times, you know, we can have the guy from Fear back. You know.
All right. Final thoughts on this film.
Final thoughts. It is a 5 out of 10 because it is a dud movie, but it's still enjoyable. It's not like, you know, bad. It's not. Like I said, there's no woke politics. There's no global warming. You know, mention all that crap, and you know they used to throw in there. This is a movie you can just.
And it's a depopulation movie.
Yeah, it is. Wow, you know that's
saying.
That's I know, but you know, at this point, like, you know, wouldn't you just want a depopulation movie? You don't see those. You know, this isn't the end of the world thing. This is like you know what it reminded me of? This would be like a bad Roger Moore movie, James Bond movie.
There's no such thing.
There is too. The diabolical villain wants to end the world, and it's up to James Bond to save it because the guy's gonna blow up the earth. You know.
At least that would be entertaining.
But
this movie's a 2 out of 10. Now I'm being generous. So it is what it is. That's why we cover. That's why we don't have too much more to say about it. But there you go. Infinite 2021. Starring Mark Wahlberg and a bunch of other people you don't care about, and it's in a film that you probably don't want to see. So
it's got some good people in here. It's got the guy.
That's what I just said.
Rupert Fiend.
You're not going, I want to watch the latest Rupert Fiend movie. You're just not. That's the bottom line.
Dylan O'Brien. I got somewhere, and that's confused me. That's another problem with this movie. I'll say it right now. There was another movie that Dylan O'Brien just recently did about a guy who can go and travel into his past memories. You know. kind of like a butterfly effect. You can go back and change,
The butterfly effect is Oscar worthy compared to this film.
Well,
And the butterfly effect is decent.
I'm just saying, there's a movie that's why I got confused with, because I didn't realize that Dylan O'Brien was in this movie. And then I saw him, like, wait, is this the same movie I saw a trailer for? So it is confusing a little bit, if you saw the other movie and you saw this, it's like, but if anything, I would have rather had Dylan O'Brien through the whole entire movie.
Yeah, and here's the thing too. Whenever you talk about past lives and you talk about reincarnation and some themes like that, you can get really heady and philosophical. This movie, of course, chooses not to do that. Even vampire movies where they allude to stuff like that seems a little more interesting than this, because this movie is tiring. It's a slog. It's snores fest, snooze fest. It's I'm gonna go take a crap in the middle of it fest type movie. This is not a movie worth watching. However, if you want a little bit of pain and misery, sometimes we get in those frames of minds, and I would concur and agree with you, RDB, that sometimes you just got to sit down and say, "What the f?" And
this is your Netflix movie, the one you don't pay for.
Yeah, don't pay for this film, people. Do not go pay for this film. Even if you're a Marky Mark fan, you've got to see everything under his name. Just don't pay for this film. I'll feel bad for you if you did. No, I won't. There's a lie. But there you go.
I won't
fear this movie. That's all I'll say. All right. Thanks, RDV, for showing up. For everybody involved here at the Xtreme Movie Show, I'd like to say thanks for listening. As always, have a good night and stay extreme.